going to get started. So I just wanted to thank you all for joining us for today for our fourth webinar. And today we're going to take a closer look at eligibility. For those who don't know me, my name's Aaron. I'm the Senior Community Engagement Officer here at the SA Portable Long Service Leave Scheme. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country across Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So today, Mandy and I will walk through what the Act says about eligibility and share some practical examples with you. They're not going to be obviously exact to your own examples, but we'll hopefully be able to pinpoint some of the key themes in those examples. And also, while I'm at it, I just want to acknowledge we have a number of staff on the call today as well, and just acknowledge all the work that they're doing and have done to ensure we got to this point fairly smoothly. I think it's really important, and I say this every webinar, that it's really important that for me to remind everyone that as employees, our job is to deliver the scheme using the same rules and direction provided in the Act. Our primary job is to help you understand how it works in practice. I know there are a lot of, I guess, concerns or myths around what we're out talking about. But again, we can only deliver on what the Act implicitly says. So I know you'll always be patient with us, but I just need to say that. I just also, as normal, we'll record this session today and make it available online for anyone who couldn't make it or wants to re-watch it. So eligibility, where do we start? So eligibility, I guess, is split into two streams. One covers workers directly providing community services, which is listed on the top there. And the other covers workers who support these services, like an admin role or an operational role or a payroll person. The first stream is workers who directly provide those community services, and eligibility needs to be covered by either of those awards, so the SHADS award or the Aboriginal Legal Rights Movement award, and their role must fall within the community services sector as defined in Schedule 2 of the Act. The list of those services are listed on our website. We will talk about a couple of them in some slides soon. The second stream is workers who don't directly deliver those services, but spend at least 50% of their time supporting the delivery of community services. And this can be a little bit confusing, but essentially it could include roles like HR for community services staff, finance staff managing community programs, or admin staff supporting service delivery teams. I'd also just like to address clause 5.2b of the Act, which essentially is a voluntary registration option. A couple of people have raised this as, or have raised some questions around this, and I just wanted to spend a couple of seconds on walking through this one. So employers can choose to register workers who don't otherwise meet the eligibility criteria. This can be, I guess, useful if you want consistency across your workforce, or if you have roles that don't necessarily neatly fit into eligibility rules, but still support your operations. The important point I'll make in this space is that once registered, those workers are treated as eligible and remain eligible and covered for as long as they're in that role with that employer. Just a quick reminder just to put yourselves on mute if you can. Thank you. So just to reiterate, it is voluntary. You can choose to register a worker, but the flip side to that is the worker is covered whilst they stay in that same role. You can't take them in and out if they remain in that same role. I'm just going to spend a really quick couple of minutes on going through the Act itself and trying to give you as much of a plain English explanation to what the Act says in this space around community services in Schedule 2. And in plain English, this means that there's always two conditions that need to be true. So from this part, the Act is about defining what the community service is for the purposes of the Act. And the Act says what it says on the left there, which is quite legislative, but the role must be covered. I guess for work to count under this scheme, there's two things that both must be true, and that is service must be listed in those under clause 2, which is the list of community services I mentioned, and the work must also fall under one of the awards, which is that SHADS award or the ALRM award. It's not enough just to be doing community services work. It also has to sit under the right coverage, like I said. So both conditions together determine eligibility. The next part of the Act, which is services, in simple terms, there's a long list of community services written into Schedule 2. Anyone who, like Mandy, loves reading legislation will know where to find it. But again, it's on our website. To be eligible, the worker must be providing one of those listed services, and their work needs to be covered by SHADS or the ALRM award. So I feel like I'm going to go over this a couple of times, but I just wanted to make sure that from a plain English perspective, you understand what the Act is asking, I guess, us all to do. When we come to Section 3, coverage, it doesn't matter if your employer has you on an enterprise agreement or a contract that pays you differently. What matters is the type of work is linked to one of the qualifying awards, again, SHADS or the Aboriginal Legal Rights Movement Award. So the key thing there is, from a plain English perspective, it doesn't matter how much you're paid. It's important to understand that if you're under SHADS or the ALRM award and delivering one of those services, you're in. I'll go past that page. Again, the next section of coverage just talks about what the Act says around those two awards. And in plain English, I tried to give you an example of what that might mean. Again, I won't spend any more time on that one. If I talk about that voluntary registration clause, on the left there is what the Act says, and on the right there, from a plain English perspective, it's exactly the same. So employers can choose to register a worker who is not otherwise eligible. Again, can I get you to put yourselves on mute, please? Thank you. Again, once registered, the worker is covered and remains eligible while in that role. All right, so we'll just run through some practical examples of both streams. We'll first start with workers who are providing the community services, which I feel is the most easiest to understand criteria. So in this example, we've got Michelle, who is a community service support worker. Mandy loves me to put in there who she works for, but I didn't on this occasion. It is what it is, so apologies, Mandy. Michelle provides direct assistance to clients through casework, through community engagement and advocacy. So the important understanding here from a pathway perspective around eligibility is Michelle is eligible under those two Schedule 2 of the criteria, so the advocacy services and the community education services. There might be more. They're the two that I found when I was doing a little bit of research. And the other criteria is the coverage. So she's covered by the SHADS award, and with both of those pathways, it means that she's eligible because covered by SHADS and engaged directly in the community services work. I think that's a fairly simplistic view on eligibility. We'll get into a little bit more trickier ones now. We get a lot of answers, or sorry, not answers, a lot of questions around nurses. And in this example, we've got Peter, who is a nurse working in a home care setting. He delivers care plans, supervises care worker staff, and ensures all care meets required standards. You'll see there from a pathway perspective, he would qualify under the Schedule 2 criteria under home and community care services. However, because the coverage is he's covered by the Nurses Award, Peter wouldn't be eligible for portable long service leave in this instance. Our next example would be Nancy, who is an Aboriginal field officer. She provides family and social support to Aboriginal clients and assists them to navigate things like housing, employment opportunities, and provides counselling. From a pathway perspective, you can see that Nancy would fit the criteria of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community services, accommodation support services and counselling services under Schedule 2. And because she is covered by the ALRM award, she would be an eligible worker to be covered by the scheme. Another one we get quite a few questions on is the allied health sector. In this instance, we've got a lovely woman by the name of Simone. She provides therapy and rehab support for clients with a disability, working alongside other care staff to deliver coordinated care. Simone here fits the criteria in Schedule 2 under disability support services and home and community care services. However, Simone is covered by the Health Professionals and Support Services Award, which deems her ineligible for portable long service leave here in South Australia. She's only, I guess, eligible in one of those pathways and not both. Again, these are simplistic examples of different kind of scenarios that we've been talking about over a few months. Yours might not necessarily be exactly the same, but again, this just gives you a high level understanding of some of those options or some of those pathways around eligibility. I'm going to move into some examples for supporting the provision rule. Remember, here is the key word is eligible if they're working in a supporting role for at least half their time, regardless of what award they sit under. So to apply that 50-50 rule, we have to consider the services that the organisation delivers and which areas the role supports. For example, a payroll officer might support all staff across the organisation, and looking at the proportion of those staff working in eligible community services can help you work out whether that role meets that 50% threshold. So some examples as we move through this part would be, as you can see on the screen, Taylor, she is a human resources officer at a no-named organisation. Apologies, Mandy. She does not deliver services directly to the clients. So instead, she supports recruitment of community services staff. She manages workforce planning, and she provides employee relations advice for community services teams. So the pathway here in this space is, although Taylor is not providing community services directly, her role supports the provision of the community services, and it's estimated that more so that those role that she supports the community services she spends more than 50% of her time doing that. So because of that pathway, Taylor would be eligible and would be able to be registered as a worker on the portable long service leave scheme. Next one I've got here is, so bear with me, this slide and the next one are kind of related and I'll explain why in the next slide. But in this one, we've got an administration officer. So we've got a lovely person named Jordan. Jordan works at an organisation that provides aged care and in-home care services. Jordan's role is not client-facing, but involves processing client intake forms, rostering workers, and managing reporting for the organisation's community mental health outreach programs. Now, because Jordan because of around 60% of Jordan's work directly supports the delivery of the in-home care services that his organisation provides, he meets the eligibility pathway for supporting the provision of community services. So the key thing there is it's more than 50% of Jordan's time. Again, it doesn't really matter if he's on a different award at all. It's around that 50-50 rule. And as I mentioned, the next slide is the same role, an administration officer role. And Brianna works alongside Jordan. They work at the same organisation, but her role is also non-client facing, but involves processing admissions paperwork and managing compliance reporting for the organisation's residential aged care facility. So again, whilst sitting right next door to Jordan, her role, around 65% of her role, so I've got a mistake in that, should be Brianna's work, not Sam's work. So 65% of Brianna's work supports service delivery in the residential aged care services that her organisation provides. Now, residential aged care is not covered under the Portable Long Service Leave scheme, which would mean that Brianna would not be eligible for Portable Long Service Leave as a worker. So there's a key difference there. So they've got similar roles. It's about what, I guess, what service they're supporting within their organisation. The other one we get quite a lot of questions around is leadership and management. And in this instance, we've got Sam, who's the executive manager of community programs at a disability support organisation. Again, she does not provide disability support services directly. Her role focuses on managing program staff who deliver those services. She also oversees the design and delivery of community programs, as well as ensuring programs meet funding and compliance requirements. I'm sure she does a lot more than that, but that's some of the key things that we'll just call out. Now, from a pathway perspective, Sam supports the provision of community services for more than half of her time. Even though she is not directly delivering the services. So therefore, Sam is eligible to be registered as a worker for the Portable Long Service Leave scheme. This is my favourite one. Lucy is an operations manager at a not-for-profit, and they provide alcohol and other drug service support. And her role consists of managing finance and budgets and ensuring compliance for service delivery teams. Once again, Lucy does not provide community services directly. Her role supports frontline community services for more than half of her time, and therefore, Lucy is eligible. Lucy is eligible as the majority of her time supports the provision of community services. Just want to touch on self-employed contractors and working directors really quickly. I feel like I've just jumped right through those examples, which is awesome. And I thought they would go a lot longer than that, but that's okay. Just on self-employed contractors working in the community services sector, as defined in the Act, you can accrue long service leave by making voluntary contributions. It's not mandatory as a self-employed contractor or working director. However, you cannot be registered as a worker under the scheme. That's really important to know. So it's a voluntary process. You can apply to participate, but it's not a mandatory process for those in those roles. It's really important to understand that us as employees and the scheme itself, we do not determine whether your staff are eligible. Our role is to support you in making that determination. We've talked to quite a number of people in this space about this in particular, and one of the recommendations that we would make is that when you come to a decision or you've made a determination on an employee or a group of, that you keep records of how and why you made that decision. I guess the reason why we suggest that is that if there's ever a time that we need to discuss eligibility with those workers in particular, or if someone asks us to review those decisions, having the access to those records makes it a whole lot easier for everyone to understand how you reached your decision. It helps us a lot, so we would recommend that a lot. So some people have asked us around what happens if we don't do the right thing accidentally, let's say. And our response in this space is that our focus primarily is on not necessarily penalising you for those mistakes. It's more about helping you meet your obligations. If issues come up, we understand that happens, and what we want to do is work with you to resolve them. Keeping clear records, like I just mentioned, helps everyone. We'll continue to provide you with the resources and the practical tools and some support as much as we can, and to make compliance as straightforward as possible. But the key thing here is that if you're having some troubles, or if you're not sure about what to do, reach out to us and have a chat to the team. We've got a bunch of great people in the organisation that are ready and willing to talk you through those situations. And I always like to say that if you are unsure, ask the question. Again, I feel like I've gone through this really quick. So just a real quick recap, and we'll probably have some time for some questions in a minute. The first thing on this slide is fairly simple to understand. In my mind, providing community services means the worker is directly delivering one of the services listed in Schedule 2 of the Act, and to be eligible, the worker also needs to be covered by either the SHADS award or the ALRM award. The second part in that slide is the supporting the provision of, and if a worker spends at least half of their time helping other people deliver those community services, then they are covered by the scheme, even if they aren't the person providing the service directly. There are provisions in place for those self-employed contractors and working directors, and I think we've been pretty clear on our approach to compliance. We're here to help. Especially in the first stages of the scheme, we definitely want to be here to help you and guide you and to provide that support that you need. You can find all of this information on our website. It is an ever-growing list of resources and information, and I suggest you bookmark it and help keep in touch about what's happening. You can do that in a number of ways. You can join our mailing list. We have a great list of people on our mailing list, and we like to share our newsletters and any of our employer toolkits that we release. You can also join our mailing list via our Contact Us page on our website. I feel like I talk a lot about key dates, and I'm going to be really, really clear on this one. The only thing employers need to do from October the 1st, the only thing you need to do in the first month is to register your organisation. 1st of October comes, the portal will become live. You'll probably need to spend 10 or 15 minutes registering your organisation on the portal, and that's entirely all you need to do until we get towards the end of the year. From October the 1st to the 31st of December, now that is our first reporting quarter, but you don't need to register your workers until the end of that quarter. So if you've got, we've talked about this a lot, if you've got quite a number of eligible workers and you can upload them, you have plenty of time to do that. There's no need to worry that come 1st of October, you have to do it all, because that's not the case. We just really need to be clear in this space that your obligation is very simple from the October the 1st, and then as we move through that first reporting quarter, worker registrations will commence and be required to be completed, and the levy paid by the 21st of January 2026. What we're hearing from some people is that they think they have to have everything done by the 1st of October or very soon after. It's not the case, and I don't want anyone to stress themselves out about what they need to do, because it's really clear. It's really clear that your business registration is the only thing that you need to do within that first month, and then following that is the worker registration towards the end of the year. Again, we're about to finish up on our slides. There's a little QR code there. You can take your phone and screen it, and it will take you to our website. Our website link is there for you to copy. We have a great selection of social media posts on LinkedIn and Facebook. We are ramping up in that space around awareness, not just for employers, but as we smoothly walk into making workers aware. Again, we have got a team here ready to answer your phone calls if you've got any questions, or you can jump on our website and fill in the contact me or contact us form. That's it from a slide perspective. I feel like I've run through that really quickly, but Mandy, I assume you've been answering some questions as we go. Is there anything else that we need to?
I have been trying to, yes, and you've done a great job, Aaron. Well done. Yeah, so there's quite a lot of questions coming through on the chat. I have been trying to answer them as we go. It's not super easy, so bear with me. We've got some questions around eligibility in that workers who aren't covered by SHADS but potentially are delivering a community service. So again, we break it down into those two streams. You have the workers who are delivering the service directly, and then you have the workers who are supporting the delivery of that service. The workers who are delivering the service need to be covered by the SHADS award or the ALRM award, and doing a community service. The workers who are supporting those workers are the ones who are also eligible. And those supporting workers do not need to be covered by the SHADS award. They can be covered by any award or any agreement, as long as their role is predominantly to support people who are delivering community services, then they're eligible as well. There is a question about disability employment services. Again, if they're not covered by the SHADS award and they're covered by the labour market award instead, then you don't have to register them. Our advice is to make sure that you are covering all of your workers under the right award, or you know which is the right award that they belong under. If you have some other kind of agreement, that is absolutely fine. As long as you're comfortable that you have assigned the correct award to those people, then you should be able to determine the eligibility from that. We can't provide you advice on which award your workers should be covered under. Absolutely, that's not our role. Our role is just to tell you that if they are covered under SHADS and they're delivering the service, then they're definitely eligible. Okay, let's see what else I got. With the 50% rule, if your workers are supporting the provision of community services for 50% or more of their time, then that role is considered to be eligible. So the time that they're in that role is eligible. So you wouldn't go, okay, well, I only have to declare half of their work on my return form because only half it was eligible. If their work was eligible during that quarter, you need to report for all of their work during that quarter. The legislation does say if a worker is eligible in a quarter, you need to register them for that quarter. You do have the option of not reporting for them in a quarter if you think it fell out of 50% of that time. The issue with assessing per quarter means that if the person sticks around with you long term and they do become eligible with you as an employer under the State Long Service Leave Act, That means that all those little gaps in those quarters where you didn't report for them because less than 50% of their time was community services, you'll be responsible for making up the long service leave accrual during that time. It's super hard to manage. It's not going to be fun for any of us. So ideally, you look at the role as a whole and go, overall, how much time do they spend? If you do want to look at it every single quarter, you're absolutely welcome to do so. So many questions. Just bear with me.
Where you're at, Mandy, I'm trying to help you out here.
Bit all over the place.
Yeah, okay.
Entitlements. Do we need to work out what your entitlements are? Yes. Registration is from 1st of October, so you do need to look at all of your employees that would be eligible and calculate what their entitlements are at 30th of September and what their liability for that would be if they already hold a long service leave entitlement. So yes, you will need to do that and you will need to report that to us so that we can update that. We'll have stacks more information on how to do that coming, but it's not available just yet. That's in one of the packages coming out a bit later.
I was just going to jump in quick, and there was a question by Therese asking whether or not the portable long service leave is compulsory, or can the organisation elect not to register? The scheme is mandatory for eligible workers, so there is not an opt-in or opt-out point for those eligible workers.
Yeah, exactly. If the two job roles are the same but have a different focus, how can we define the focus where they have mixed tasks? You are going to need to decide. We would recommend, like we said, creating yourselves a plan of how you're going to make that distinction. Look at your position descriptions, look at how much work is done, percentages of time spent in each area as an overall process. Write down what you did to make that assessment and then make that assessment. That's the best advice we can give you on how to work that out. We know that there are roles that are going to be varied. Like I said, everyone's business is different, so you are just going to have to work out how much of their time would be eligible. And again, record it.
There's a couple of questions there that around whether or not their employees they fit within the a service covered under Schedule 2, but not SHADS or ALRM. And I think you've covered that off fairly well. They have to meet both criteria to be eligible.
Yep.
Do you want to touch on the enterprise agreements side of things?
Which bit?
I think we've got a couple
okay,
there.
The EA. Yes.
Yeah.
So if there is an enterprise agreement and it is aligned to SHADS, then yes, the people under there would be covered by SHADS.
It doesn't actually have to say that they are under SHADS, but if it's underpinned by SHADS, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Because underpinning it by SHADS means that they are covered by it.
There you go. Emily says, yeah, I have staff across 3 states, 1 with an established scheme and 2 where the schemes are rolling out soon. Just want to acknowledge how well organised the portable long service leave scheme is here in South Australia. Excellent. Well, that's good. Clear information requirements. Thank you so much for that, Emily.
Thanks, Emily.
What period do we look at to determine 50% of their time with project workers being engaged for a 6-month project in community services? Can we deregister an employee when we accidentally misinterpreted their focus?
You can potentially. That would be difficult to do because you'd have to establish that you were registering them because you had to and not because you were voluntarily registering them. And that would be not super easy to demonstrate. But like I said, the legislation says if your employee was eligible in the quarter, then you need to report their service for the quarter. So if you want to engage them on a 6-month project in community service and you want to go, okay, well, they're on their project, they're in this role, therefore for that 6 months of time, they fall in an eligible role, and we're going to report them on those 2 quarters, yes, you can do that.
Excellent.
If that means that once they're not on that project anymore and they're in a slightly different role because they're no longer working on that project and now they're not eligible anymore, you can stop registering them because their role has changed and now they're not eligible.
I was just about to touch on the question that Helen had said around her, most employers are covered by SHADs, but their business is classified. Well, they're a not-for-profit charity based around cancer care, fund accommodation services. So I would, if I was Helen, go look at the list in Schedule 2 on our website, and the website is fairly accessible. I would double check on all of those 30 lists under Schedule 2 whether or not any of your services that you provide are listed there, and then that should determine whether or not your employees are eligible. Thank you. Joe just said, how do we deal with workers who move in and out of eligibility?
So long story short, if the workers move in and out, obviously the service they accrue under the Portable Act is recorded with us, is portable and remains with them. If the person remains with the employer long enough to reach an entitlement under the State Act as well, then all those gaps where they weren't registered will be responsibility of the employer. So we have to do a bit of a process when the person does take long service leave to work out which part portable long service leave are responsible for paying and which part the employer is responsible for paying. That's all part of the claims process, and we'll work through that with the employer when that happens. If the person doesn't stick around long enough, then those little bits where you didn't record them, unfortunately, that's not portable, and therefore they won't get any service for that period of time.
Excellent. Thank you. Barbara, hello, Barbara. Barbara wants us to clarify pro rata entitlements for pre-scheme accrued long service leave. I would have thought that pre-scheme long service leave would be entirely up to the employers to manage. Is that right, Mandy?
Pre-scheme, so before the scheme comes into effect, your long service leave, obviously whatever your policies say, you can do whatever happens there. After the scheme comes into effect, it's a little bit different. So if you want to, the Act allows you to extinguish liabilities for service accrued before the scheme started. So if you and the worker both agree, there'll be a form that you can fill out for you to pay the worker directly for any long service leave accrued up to the 1st of October. So yes, you do have the option to do those things. You cannot pay the worker out for anything that was accrued after the 1st of October because that is all covered under the Portable Act, and the Portable Act needs to be paid for by us. That does mean that those employees who want to get a payout after 1st of October, where some of their service would include after 1st of October, you're not able to do that based on a policy. That said, if you have an enterprise agreement that says that your workers can access their long service leave early, we will support those provisions.
Excellent. Thanks, Mandy. Vet's just jumped in with a quick one on executive management roles. Obviously, that would be a supporting role, supporting the provision of. So it really depends on, I guess, what their organisation, what services they deliver. And if their services that they deliver are on the Schedule 2 of the Act and they do it more than 50% of their time, they would be eligible. Is that right?
Yeah, if that executive manager is supporting people who provide community services, if that's what your business does, then absolutely they would be eligible. I think we need to move away from how we're paying the workers. So it doesn't matter if it's an agreement, a salary, wages, whatever, or contract, short-term, casual, whatever. None of that makes any difference. It's about the role that they do.
Excellent. Ashani jumped in with, what happens if an employee applies for long service leave in November of this year? With
information's still coming on that. Yeah, we're still working through that process. It is super hard to manage because people haven't registered their business in the first quarter. We're still registering workers in the first quarter. No workers have long service leave accrued under the Portable Act in the first quarter. We will have information for that coming for you, but we're not there yet.
So if you might just need to be, give us a little bit of time on that one, Ashani, give us a bit of patience. I know that that's been talked about a couple of times in conversations that I've had, and it's something that we're just investigating at this point in time. Donna, did you mean that you do not group the pre-existing accrual into the accrual you have after October 1 to pay it out? Is it paid out separately?
So it's not really paid out separately unless that's what the worker and the employer choose to do. So the ordinary process would be that it becomes part of their portable long service leave entitlement. The person would claim some long service leave, they would be paid for their long service leave, and we would seek reimbursement from the employer to cover the portion that was accrued prior to the scheme commencement. That would be the normal process. But if the worker has that long service leave entitlement before the scheme even starts, and the employer and the worker both agree that they want the employer to just pay the long service leave entitlement to the worker directly for any service accrued before the scheme starts, that's allowed. There's just a form that you need to fill out and provide to us to demonstrate that you've done that and you both agreed to it.
Excellent. I've got a thumbs up from Donna on that one, so well done, Mandy.
Thank you.
Tom has jumped in with a further to the taking of leave prior to January 26. What about staff that have existing approved long service leave that starts before the 1st of October and concludes after the 1st of October?
That one's super easy. So if that person is eligible, you will still register them from 1st of October. If they come back to work after 1st of October, then that's fine. They're still going to accrue portable long service leave for that period. So that one's not an issue whatsoever.
So they would follow the normal rules under the State Act and apply through their employer for long service leave pre-scheme. And then if they come back to work post-scheme start, they would just start from that point onwards. Is that right?
Kind of. So long service leave is recognised as work for the purposes of the Act. So yes, even if they didn't come back to work, that period that they were on long service leave would count as portable long service leave.
Yeah,
so the
because it's
employer would still report for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an allowable absence. That's from memory. Is that right?
That's right.
Yep, cool. All right. I don't think we've missed too many questions. I don't think we've missed any unless I'm going blind. Anyone wants Nicole jumped in. If we have employees already approved for long service leave between October and the 1st of January, do we need to reapply in the portal?
That will be as part of that information that is still coming about taking leave in the first quarter. So that's still taking leave in the first quarter. We will get back to you as soon as possible. In the interim, though, don't panic. It doesn't mean that no one will be able to take leave during that time. They can, because the employer can pay the worker directly for long service leave accrued up to 1st October. So you still have that ability for them to take the leave. There's still the ability for you to pay for it. That's still allowed. We're just working through all of the processes that kind of go along with that still, and we'll provide all of that information as soon as we have it.
Yeah, I think that's a really good takeaway, is that you can still do what you would normally do. We're just trying to work out the mechanics and trying to understand that process. So keep doing what you're doing, Nicole, and everyone else that wants to go down that path, and we'll come back to you with a bit more information. I'm hoping in the next toolkit release, or the one after at least, but definitely before the 1st of October.
There will be an answer for how we manage that, and the people will still be able to take long service leave. So that's still a thing. It's just how it all works together, and all the different answers to all these questions that come out of that. That's the bit we're still working through.
Yep, excellent. Okay, I think our questions have dried up a little bit, unless we've got a few jumping on. I'm going to take an opportunity now just to thank you all for coming along today as well. I know it can get a little bit monotonous listening to my voice a lot, and then I like to try and break that up with Mandy's voice. So all of the, efforts that we're trying to, or support we're providing you, is to help you understand your obligations. These webinars, again, are provided as a recording on our website. This one should be up online. I'm going to say by the end of the week, I'll get myself organised and make sure that happens. We are forever updating our FAQs on our website based on questions that we receive from yourselves. We are working on our next toolkit, and I think there's a newsletter number two in the wings as well. So there's plenty of information available and coming your way. Having said that, if you are struggling or if you want to have a chat face to face, give us a call or reach out through our email address and go from there. And we'll organise a time to come and have a chat to you. But it looks like all the questions have dried up, so I might take the opportunity to close the session now. And thank you very much for participating. Thank you, Helen, for that. We will we'll move on, and thank you so much, and we'll speak to you again soon. Thanks, everyone.